The salt-tinged breeze swept through my father's garden, carrying the scent of roses and the sea. I was elbow-deep in soil, pruning the white roses he'd planted for my wedding, a wedding that ended in a divorce that still stung like a fresh cut. My name's Abby, and this garden, part of our family's sprawling estate in coastal Maine, is all I have left of him. He passed a few weeks ago, and every snip of my shears felt like a way to keep him close. That's when I heard it, the sharp click of high heels on the stone path, a sound that didn't belong here. Still playing in the dirt, Abby? Elsa's voice dripped with fake sweetness, like syrup gone bad. I didn't look up. Only one person would wear stilettos to trample through my father's sacred garden. Elsa, my ex-husband Luke's new wife, the woman who'd torn my life apart. I kept my eyes on the roses, their petals soft and pure, a stark contrast to her venom. "Hello, Elsa," I said, wiping my hands on my apron, dirt smudging the faded denim. "What do you want?" She stepped closer, her shadow falling over the flower bed like a storm cloud. "The will's being read tomorrow, Luke, and I thought we'd have a friendly chat first." Her red lips curled into a smug grin, and I felt my stomach twist. The nerve of her, standing here in my garden, acting like she owned the place. "There's nothing to discuss," I said, standing up, clutching the shears a little tighter. "This is my father's estate, his home, his legacy." Elsa laughed, a sharp, grating sound. "Oh, Abby. Luke was practically a son to your dad for years, running Harper Enterprises with him. We deserve our share of that $500 million company, don't you think?" The shears felt heavier in my hand. "You mean the same Luke who cheated on me with his assistant?" I shot back, my voice steady despite the anger bubbling inside. "The one who broke our marriage while my father was dying?" "That's ancient history," she said, waving her manicured hand like my pain was nothing. "Your dad forgave him. They had lunch every week at the yacht club until, well, you know." She paused, her eyes glinting with something cruel. My father's death was still raw, a wound that hadn't even begun to heal, and here she was, picking at it. "He wouldn't have left Luke anything," I said, stepping closer, my boots sinking into the soft earth. "He wasn't a fool." Elsa's smile flickered, just for a second. "We'll see. Your brother Caleb seems to think otherwise." My heart skipped. Caleb? We hadn't spoken since the funeral, where he spent more time with Luke than with me. The betrayal still stung. He was supposed to be my brother, my ally. "You've talked to Caleb?" I asked, hating how small my voice sounded. "Oh, sweetheart," she said, leaning in, her perfume overwhelming. "We've done more than talk. He's been very cooperative." Her words landed like a slap, and I gripped the shears so tight my knuckles whitened. My father used to say, "The roses need a gentle hand, Abby, but never a weak one. Even thorns have their purpose." I wanted to be that gentle hand, but right now all I felt was thorns. "Get off my property, Elsa," I said quietly, my voice low but firm. "Before I forget how to be polite." She laughed again, louder this time, like I was a child throwing a tantrum. "Your property? This estate's worth millions, Abby. You really think you can keep it all, playing gardener in your daddy's big house while the rest of us get nothing?" She turned, her heels clicking as she sauntered toward the gate. "Start packing. Luke and I will need a few weeks to redecorate once we move in." I stood frozen, watching her disappear down the path. The roses, my father's pride, were smeared with dirt where my trembling hands had crushed their petals. He'd always said white roses meant new beginnings, but all I could see was red, anger, hurt, betrayal. I pulled out my phone and dialed the one person I could trust. "Rachel, it's me. Elsa just showed up. She's awful. Can you come over? I need to talk about the will." "I'll be there in 20, Rachel said, her voice calm but strong, like the lighthouse weathering a storm. "Don't worry, Abby. Your dad was smarter than they think." After hanging up, something caught my eye, a small envelope tucked under a rose bush, its corner damp with dew. My name was scrawled across it in my father's handwriting. I knelt, heart pounding, and picked it up. It felt heavy, like it held more than paper. "Well, Dad," I whispered, turning it over. "What's this?" As Elsa's car engine faded in the distance, I stood in the garden, clutching the envelope, feeling like I'd just found the first piece of a puzzle my father had left behind. Rachel pulled up to the estate right on time, her beat-up SUV a familiar sight against the manicured lawns of our seaside town. She stepped out, legal folder in one hand, a bottle of Pinot Noir in the other. "Figured we might need this," she said with a wry smile, holding up the wine as she crossed the threshold into my father's study. The room still smelled of his pipe smoke and old books, a sanctuary I wasn't ready to lose to Elsa's greed. I sat on the edge of his leather chair, the unopened envelope from the garden in my hands, my fingers tracing the familiar loops of his handwriting. "You haven't opened it yet?" Rachel asked, setting her folder down with a thud that echoed in the quiet room. "I wanted to wait for you," I admitted, my voice softer than I meant it to be. "Elsa said Caleb's helping them. After that, I didn't want to face it alone." Rachel poured us each a glass of wine, the deep red catching the light from the desk lamp. "Your dad was particular about timing, Abby. He always said some things should only be shared when the moment's right." She handed me a glass. "Open it." My hands shook as I tore the envelope open. Inside was a single sheet of paper and a small brass key. I unfolded the letter, my father's voice echoing in my mind as I read aloud. "My dearest Abby, if you're reading this, someone's already circling the estate. Knowing people, I'm guessing it's Elsa. She's all charm and no soul, that one." Rachel snorted into her wine glass. "This key opens the safe in my desk. Inside, you'll find what you need to protect what's yours. Remember what I taught you about chess. Sometimes you sacrifice a pawn to save the queen. Love, Dad." I looked up at Rachel, my heart racing. "You knew about this?" She nodded, moving to the desk. "I helped him set it up a few months back when he got sick. He knew what was coming." The safe clicked open with a soft turn of the key. Inside was a thick folder and a USB drive. I opened the folder, and photos spilled across the desk. Elsa meeting someone in a shadowy parking lot, Luke entering a lawyer's office that wasn't Rachel's. There were emails, bank statements, proof of money siphoned from Harper Enterprises. "He had them followed," I whispered, my voice catching as I picked up a photo of Elsa handing an envelope to a nurse, my father's nurse, just days before he died. Rachel pointed to the USB drive. "That's got video. Elsa trying to bribe the nurse for details about the will. Your dad was thorough." My hands trembled as I sifted through the evidence. "There's Caleb," I said, pointing to a photo of my brother meeting Elsa, holding what looked like a check. My stomach dropped. She wasn't lying. "He's with them." "Look at the next one," Rachel said gently. The second photo showed Caleb leaving the meeting, his face twisted with disgust, the check still in his hand. "He kept it as proof," she explained. "He gave it to your dad. Caleb was playing them, Abby, feeding them just enough to keep them confident while he helped your dad build this case." I sank into the chair, the weight of it all crashing over me. "Why didn't you tell me?" Rachel sat on the desk's edge, her voice steady. "Elsa needed to think she was winning. Your dad and Caleb let her believe it, so she'd slip up." She pulled more documents from her briefcase. "Tomorrow, at the will reading, they'll think they've got a chunk of the estate. But your dad added a codicil a few days before he passed. It's a trap. The moment they accept their share, it triggers an investigation, and all this," she gestured to the photos and USB, "goes public." I stared at the evidence, my father's careful plan laid out like a chessboard. He let them think they'd won, just to expose them. "Exactly," Rachel said, a glint of pride in her eyes. "The real will leaves everything to you, with a trust for Caleb. Elsa and Luke get nothing but shame." The door creaked, and Caleb stepped into the study, looking like he hadn't slept in days. His suit was rumpled, dark circles under his eyes. He held a leather folder, clutching it like a lifeline. "Abby," he said, pausing at the threshold. "We need to talk." Caleb looked nothing like the polished lawyer I remembered from our childhood, back when we'd raced through the garden, dodging my father's sprinklers. He sank into the chair across from me, the desk still littered with photos and documents. "You look awful," I said, trying to ease the tension, but my voice came out sharp. "Yeah, well," he said with a weak smile, "playing double agent isn't as fun as it sounds." He glanced at the photos, his expression tightening. "So, you found Dad's plan. Why didn't you tell me?" I asked, the hurt spilling out. "You let me think you were on their side, Caleb. After everything with Luke, you were supposed to be my brother." He winced, running a hand through his hair. "I messed up, Abby. During your divorce, I took Luke's side because I thought he was family. I was wrong, and I've been trying to fix it ever since." He opened the folder and slid a check across the desk, $500,000, signed by Elsa. She offered me this to lie, to say Dad wasn't in his right mind when he wrote the will. I gave it to him instead. I stared at the check, my mind reeling. "You could have cashed it." Caleb shook his head. "You should have seen Dad's face when I showed him. Not angry, just disappointed." That's when he told me about his plan, about Elsa's real game. He pulled out his phone and played a recording. Elsa's voice filled the room, cold and calculated. "Once the estate's ours, we'll sell the house, liquidate the business. Abby can go back to her little flower shop. She doesn't deserve any of this." I clenched my fists, my nails digging into my palms. "When was this?" "Months ago," Caleb said, skipping to another clip. Luke's voice now. "We'll make it quick. Abby won't see it coming." I told him to stop the recording, my heart pounding. "She planned this from the start, didn't she?" Caleb nodded, pulling out a document. "This is worse. Elsa was stealing from Harper Enterprises for months before you caught her with Luke. Bank transfers, fake invoices, she siphoned off thousands. Dad found out right before his diagnosis." He handed me the paper and I scanned the numbers, each one a betrayal. He was building a case, but when he got sick, he changed tactics. Said justice sometimes takes a quieter path. "The codicil," I said, piecing it together. "Yeah," Caleb said. "Elsa even hired a film crew for tomorrow, thinking she'd record her big win. Dad would have loved the irony. She's filming her own downfall." I let out a bitter laugh, imagining my father's sly grin. "She wanted revenge, didn't she? For me catching her and Luke, for the alimony." Caleb's face darkened. "It's more than that." I dug deeper with Dad's investigators. Elsa's real name is Lillian Crane. She's done this before, targeted wealthy families, worked her way in, then bled them dry. She got close to Luke because he was the weak link, easy to manipulate. My stomach churned. For years, I'd blamed myself for my marriage falling apart, thinking I wasn't enough. But it was all her plan, every step calculated. "Dad knew?" I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "He figured it out early," Caleb said. "That's why he kept her close, let her think she was winning. Tomorrow, she'll walk right into his trap." I looked out the study window, the garden bathed in moonlight. The roses stood tall, their white petals glowing like a promise. "Remember when Dad caught us fighting over that toy boat?" I said, turning to Caleb. "He made us scrub every window in the house." Caleb chuckled, the first real smile I'd seen from him in ages. Said we needed to learn to see clearly. "I get it now, Abby." He was teaching us even at the end. The grandfather clock in the hall chimed, each note a reminder that tomorrow was coming fast. "Get some rest," Caleb said, gathering the papers. "It's gonna be a hell of a show." The morning of the will reading dawned crisp and clear, the Maine sun glinting off the ocean beyond our estate. I stood in my father's library, watching Rachel arrange documents on his oak desk, its surface worn from years of his late-night work. Outside, Elsa's film crew bustled, setting up cameras to capture what she thought would be her triumph. Caleb slipped in, his tie slightly crooked. "You should see Elsa out there," he said, a hint of amusement in his voice. "She's rehearsing her victory speech." "Everything ready?" I asked Rachel, my hands clenching the edge of the desk. She tapped her briefcase, a sealed envelope inside. "All set. The codicil and evidence are here. Once they take the bait, it's over." The library doors swung open, and Elsa swept in, her black dress screaming money, Luke trailing behind her in a suit that looked too perfect for his uneasy expression. The film crew followed, adjusting lights like this was a Hollywood set. "Abby," Luke said, his voice stiff, the first time he'd spoken to me since the divorce. "Let's begin," Rachel said, standing behind the desk, her voice cutting through the room's tension. "As the Harper family's attorney, I'll read the last will and testament of Abigail's father, along with any additional documents." Elsa practically vibrated with excitement, gripping Luke's arm. Rachel read the first part of the will. The estate, house, business, assets, split 70% to me, 30% to Luke and Elsa. "I knew it," Elsa squealed, her voice grating. "He couldn't leave us out." Rachel's eyes gleamed. "There's a codicil, added days before he passed." Elsa's smile faltered. Luke shifted, his face paling. "A what?" he asked. "A change to the will," Rachel said, opening the envelope. "Anyone accepting the inheritance agrees to an investigation into financial irregularities at Harper Enterprises in the months before his death." The room went silent, the camera crew frozen, lenses still rolling. "What irregularities?" Elsa snapped, her charm cracking. Rachel slid a stack of photos across the desk. "Maybe these will explain. Or this USB drive with video of you bribing his nurse. Or these bank records showing funds stolen from the company." Luke picked up a photo, him carrying confidential files into a rival's office. His hands shook. "Where did you get this?" "Your father-in-law kept excellent records," Caleb said from the corner, "including recordings of you two planning to lie about his mental state." Elsa shot to her feet, her chair clattering. "Turn those cameras off," she shrieked. "No," I said, stepping forward, my voice steady. "You wanted this filmed, remember?" "You can't do this," she spat, turning to Luke. "Tell them." But Luke just stared at the photo, his tie askew, his fight gone. Rachel continued, calm as ever. "The codicil is clear. Accept the inheritance, and this evidence goes to the authorities. Your choice." Elsa laughed, a bitter, jagged sound. "Choice. You've trapped us." "No," I said, meeting her eyes. "You trapped yourself. Every lie, every scheme, every cent you stole led you here." She whirled on Caleb. "You were supposed to help us." Caleb shrugged. "I did help. Just not you." Suddenly, a screen in the corner flickered on. My father's face appeared, tired but fierce, recorded days before he died. "If you're watching this," he said, looking straight at Elsa, "you've shown your true colors, just as I knew you would. Greed's a poor teacher, but consequences? They teach well." Elsa's mascara streaked as she backed toward the door. "This isn't over," she hissed. "It is," Rachel said, nodding to the hallway, where police officers waited. "They'd like to discuss the stolen funds. I suggest you cooperate." As officers led Elsa and Luke away, the cameras still rolling, Caleb leaned in. "Well, Dad got his show after all." I clutched his letter, feeling his presence in the room, his plan unfolding exactly as he'd intended. The weeks after the will reading blurred into a storm of headlines. Elsa, revealed as Lillian Crane, a con artist wanted in multiple states, was plastered across every news channel in Maine, her tear-streaked face a far cry from her polished facade. Luke, desperate to save himself, spilled everything to the authorities, earning a 17-year sentence instead of life. I didn't watch the coverage much. It felt like rubbing salt in a wound that was finally starting to heal. Back at the estate, Caleb and I sat in the kitchen, the deed to the lot next to Harper Bloom's spread out on the counter. My father's final letter lay beside it, his words a quiet anchor. "You bring beauty into the world, Abby. Don't let it stay in one garden." He'd bought the lot months ago, envisioning a future for my shop for me. Rachel joined us, her tablet glowing with business plans my father had filed. Permits, funding, everything ready to go. "He set it all up," she said, her voice warm. "Harper Bloom's is yours to grow." He even named it, back when he first got sick. Caleb grinned, holding up a photo of a plaque he'd found in the greenhouse, hidden among Dad's orchids. "For Abby, who blooms where the ground is broken. He put this there after your divorce, he said. He always believed in you. A knock at the door broke the moment. The detective from the case stepped in, a rare smile on his face. 2 more victims of Lillian scams came forward today, he said. Your dad's evidence is closing cases we couldn't crack for years. He'd love that, I said, picturing his sly grin, the one he wore when he knew he'd outsmarted someone. After the detective left, I walked to the greenhouse alone, the key from my father's final note turning easily in the lock. Inside, the air was warm, thick with the scent of orchids he'd tended even in his final days. On his workbench was another envelope, my name scrawled in his handwriting. I opened it, my heart full. My dearest Abby, it read. Justice was only half the plan. I wanted you to grow, to bloom beyond the pain. This greenhouse, these flowers, they're proof that beauty survives the worst winters. The deed is for Harper Blooms, but the real gift is your strength. You've always had it. Now, let it shine. Love, Dad. I stood there, tears blurring the words, the orchids glowing around me. He hadn't just saved the estate. He'd saved me, given me a future I could build. Back in the house, Caleb and Rachel were waiting. Well, Caleb asked. I spread the deed out again. We're building Harper Blooms. Bigger, better for him. Rachel's eyes sparkled. I've got the paperwork ready. Let's make it happen. Caleb raised his coffee mug. To Dad. To Justice, Rachel added, lifting hers. I picked at my own, the roses outside catching the afternoon light. To blooming again, I said, feeling the weight of the past lift, replaced by something new, hope, strength, a future I could grow, one petal at a time. To everyone who's followed this journey, thank you. You've walked with me through betrayal, loss, and a fight for what's right. If my story moved you, hit that subscribe button and join us, where every flower tells a story of resilience, truth, and new beginnings. Keep tending your own garden, and I'll meet you at the next bloom.